Let these 100 dots represent 100% of the world's poorest people. In 1980, only 10 of them lived in Africa. Fast forward to today, that number is 60. In just 4 decades, poverty moved continents. It left Asia and settled in Africa. But how? How did the world's second fastest growing population, the continent with trillions in natural resources, after decades of foreign aid, development loans, and grand promises, still end up here? And perhaps the more important question, why did Asia, which started from a similar point, do the exact opposite? Now, the first explanations that probably come to mind are colonization, corruption, exploitation. And yes, those played a role. But here's the thing, Africa isn't alone in those experiences. Many Asian countries were colonized, exploited, and riddled with corruption too. And yet, many of them broke free. So, what changed? The truth is, there are factors that shaped Asia's escape from poverty that almost no one talks about. Policies, patterns, decisions that worked and could still work today for African countries. So in this video, we're going to unpack 3 big questions. How similar or different were Africa and Asia in the 1980s? What has improved and what hasn't in Africa since then? And what did Asian countries do that African countries still could? It's 1980. Asia is home to over 70% of the world's poor. Africa, just 10%. Both regions are young, post-colonial, and deeply rural. Average life expectancy, 50 in sub-Saharan Africa, 58 in South Asia. Literacy rates, under 40% in both. Health systems, barely standing. Economies, built on farming and resource exports, not factories. China had just opened its economy. Vietnam was recovering from war. India was still struggling with famine and debt. Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, also young, fragile states. Different languages, different histories, but strikingly similar economic foundations. This isn't necessarily to compare both and criticize one, but more to understand what happened. Let's look at where they both are today, what changed, and what didn't. Let's start with sub-Saharan Africa in 2025. Life expectancy climbed from 50 years to over 63. Child mortality plummeted. More kids went to school than ever before. In countries like Tanzania, primary school enrollment rose from 54% in 1999 to 97% by 2010. Mobile phones spread faster here than anywhere else. M-Pesa in Kenya rewired how Africans move money. But these bright spots hide a deeper reality. Because while people lived longer, they didn't always live better. And while kids went to school, most didn't learn enough to compete. Today, 86% of 10-year-olds in sub-Saharan Africa can't read a basic sentence. In Vietnam, it's under 10%. Africa's health systems remain dependent on imports for 80% of its medicines. Meanwhile, India became the pharmacy of the developing world. Vietnam now exports medical equipment. Africa waits for it. On paper, exports in Africa went up. Commodities flowed. But the number of manufacturing jobs? Tiny. Why does this matter? Because jobs matter, especially in a continent with the fastest growing young population on Earth. By 2030, half of all new entrants into the global labor force will come from sub-Saharan Africa. Up to 15 million new jobs will need to be created annually. Without jobs, growth means little. GDP can rise, exports can increase. But if factories don't open, towns don't build, and millions remain in subsistence, the poverty cycle continues. In the 70s and 80s, Asian countries experienced the same population growth, but strategized around it. In the mid-1970s, Bangladesh had more than 6 children per woman. By 2011, it was down to around 2.3. What changed? A massive family planning program, door-to-door outreach by female field workers, mass media campaigns that reshaped cultural views on family size, access to modern contraceptives, growing from 8% to over 60% of married women, rising women's education and falling child mortality, reducing the need for insurance children. These were low-tech, high-impact policies. Smaller families meant better health, better education, and more working-age adults. Bangladesh began reaping the demographic dividend. You may ask, why is having fewer children a good thing for the economy in this instance? This isn't to push any ideology, but the fact is, parents can invest more in each child's future. A larger share of the population becomes economically productive. Governments can spend more on infrastructure, less on basic survival. The result? Higher productivity, faster growth. Vietnam followed a similar path. A national family planning program, local committees, widespread access to contraception, marriage delayed, birth spacing promoted. By 2005, Vietnam had reached near replacement fertility. The workforce boomed, just in time for the country's next transformation. This is what truly changed Asia's economic fate. Factories. Vietnam opened up to foreign investors. Bangladesh built a textile empire. India, an IT powerhouse. China created special economic zones, turning villages into global hubs. Millions left farms for better-paying jobs in industry. Poverty collapsed in Vietnam from 70% in the 1980s to under 3% today. Not only did governments build industries, they also turned to their people abroad. Every year, tens of thousands of African doctors, engineers, nurses, and promising students leave the continent for better pay, better conditions, better futures. It's called brain drain, and it's devastating. But here's where the story takes a twist. Because Asia lost talent too, but used it differently. Indian engineers in Silicon Valley later helped build India's tech ecosystem. China created the Sea Turtles program, offering tax breaks, grants, and status to skilled returnees. At one point, the Chinese diaspora contributed over half of national investment flows. Vietnam launched diaspora funds and business missions. Africa's diaspora is one of the largest and most educated in the world, but many governments only see them as remittance senders, not nation builders. Asia turned brain drain into a brain bank. Africa hasn't, yet. So what does all this mean? Well, while there are clearly many other factors at play, from global trade to politics, some of the challenges Africa faces today have been tackled before, and in many cases, solved. From Bangladesh's family planning efforts, to Vietnam's education and export model, to China's diaspora and industrial zones. These were targeted, strategic, long-term policies. They didn't require magic, they required will. So here's the uncomfortable part. If we know what works, if the solutions are already out there, why haven't they been applied at scale in Africa? Why do cycles of poverty, aid, and stagnation keep repeating? Is it really just a leadership issue? Or is it something deeper?